Hello, everyone. My name is Jordana Thompson, and I'm a program coordinator for Junior Achievement of New Mexico. Thank you for attending our virtual career speaker series. This program is open to JA students across New Mexico and highlights business professionals, entrepreneurs, and innovative thinkers from a variety of industries. Each featured speaker will share details about their education, job, and career journey. Before we get started, there are a few virtual meeting etiquette reminders. This recording will be posted on our YouTube channel for anyone who's unable to attend today's session. Feel free to send the YouTube link to anyone in your network. At this time, please type your first and last name into the chat box if you haven't already done so. And if you're an educator attending with students, please let me know how many students are on the call with you today as well. During the speaker's presentation, please make sure your mics are muted. If you have questions during the presentation, write them down or type them into the chat box, and we will address those during the Q&A portion of our event. Today, we are super excited to welcome Devora Rivera with Teach for America. I will go ahead and share my screen, Devora, and then the floor is all yours.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and see everyone today, and I'm excited to share a little bit more about my journey and education. All right. So my name is Devora Rivera, and we can move on to the next slide so we can kind of see a little bit more of the overview. All right. Today I'm going to focus on a couple things. The first thing I want to focus on is my what, why, and how. So for me specifically, I needed to look at what I was doing right now and why did I choose to do that. So first with my what am I doing? What's my job? Then the next thing I chose is my why. Why am I doing what I'm doing right now? I'm an educator, so that's going to be seen throughout the process. And then finally moving on to my how. How did I get to where I am right now? Moving on to the next slide. All right. For my what am I doing right now? Like, what is my job? What do I do for a job? Well, I'm an educator. Moving on to the next slide. All right. As an educator, I work with a bunch of teachers, as you can see in that picture right there. I work dressing up in costumes. We celebrate different activities, and we figure out how to explain materials to our students in the best and most effective way. As you can see right here, I'm enjoying Halloween with one of my previous co-teachers. And then on the right, you can also see a different part of my job. I'm a kindergarten teacher, so I work with behavioral management and also teaching students how to do things that we kind of take for granted, like sitting in a chair or sitting at the carpet or raising our hand when we have a discussion. And I think that that's something that's a little bit difficult for us to think about because I think at this age we're like, oh, we already know how to do that. But initially, before we knew how to do all these things, we had to take a second to learn it. And so what's really important about teaching kindergarten is that I get to teach them that social process and build those relationships with them. And I really enjoy that part of my job. Moving on to the next slide. All right. So these are two pictures that I included here because as an educator, the first one on the left, you can see preventing burnout. And I know that seems a little strange, and I'll explain it a little bit more. Burnout is when a person in a job feels really tired and exhausted and that they can't move forward with their job because they weren't taking care of themselves. So as a teacher, a lot of times the educators can get really tired and overwhelmed because we have to run to the cafeteria to check on someone's lunch, or we have to move on to our next lesson. And we have to manage all these things. We're also checking in on you all and making sure that you're doing well. So as a teacher, we can sometimes get overwhelmed. That's why I included this picture because a crucial part of being an effective educator, a great teacher, is to take care of yourself, to make sure I check in with myself. How am I doing? How am I feeling today? And if you check in with yourself, I feel like you do much better at making sure your students are feeling good as well. On the right, you see a picture and it has a lot of words. I can see it right there, but it's kind of like a practice picture of a lesson. Now, it's not necessarily what I use for my own lessons, but I included it because I know it's confusing because we're not teachers right now. But as a teacher, what you use to help you plan a lesson is objectives, which is basically bullet points of what we want you to learn. And with these objectives, we get to make a plan on what you're going to do that day so you can learn our lesson most effectively. So here's like an example of that for kindergarten, but it's not necessarily what I use. I just wanted to include it so you can kind of get an understanding of what a teacher actually uses when they're teaching. Because it's not always all in our brain every day, even though we try to make it seem like it. We definitely have to study, just like you do, every day to make sure our job is done well. Moving on to the next slide. All right. So for the next slide, we're moving on to my why. And this is my personal favorite because now you know what I do, what's my job, who am I externally. Now you're going to learn a little bit more about my why. Why do I do what I do? So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about myself. Moving on to the next slide. All right, so here you can see a lot of pictures, and I'm very excited to explain them all. On the top right, you can see a picture of a city, and it's actually DC because I'm not from here. I'm from Virginia, Northern Virginia, and I have this picture right here because it's really close to my heart, and that's where I grew up, and that's kind of where my family lives. And then right below, you can see there's a picture of a gym. And why did I include that? Because personally, I just wanted to let you know I really enjoy sports. I don't know if any of you enjoy sports, but when I was in high school and in middle school, I used to run track and cross country, and it was so fun. And I was like super competitive, but I don't do that anymore. I now work out at a gym, and it's really nice to like have a commitment to a sport and have something I can work on myself. So that's why I included that in the bottom corner for who I am. And then finally on the left, and this is probably like the biggest part about me that stands out a little bit, I would say this is my family, my immediate family. You can see my parents right here in the middle, and then my brothers sitting around them, and then my other siblings all around. So I come from a family of 14 kids. There are 7 girls and 7 boys in our family, which is kind of insane when I say it out loud, but it is my family, and I really love them so much. So that goes back to my why. Why do I do what I do? And I think a lot of it has to do because of my family. In growing up in a big family, and I'm sure like some of you know, even if you're not in a big family, you have to talk to your brothers and like figure out like who's in charge or who's gonna take control of one situation, who gets to lead or go sit in the front seat, stuff like that. And I think that growing up in a big family, I found that I didn't have that loud of a voice, and it really made my life very difficult because I was, what am I going to do when I grow up when I can't even talk in my family? So I thought about that, and it made me start to think about like other ways that I could find a voice. So just like you are right now, when I was in school, I chose to start investing a little bit more in my classes, and I realized, oh, wow, in school, I have a voice. My voice is louder in my writing, in my math, in my presenting skills. And I realized, wow, school gives me the opportunity to use that voice that I felt like I couldn't find in my family. So I was like, oh, I'm going to invest in school. This is a great choice. So not only that, I have a lot of siblings, as you can see, but another thing is that my family, no one has gone to college before me, so I'm a first generation student, which means no one had gone to college before me. So no one knew what to do. I had to figure it all out before everyone else, and it was kind of difficult. But I think because it was so new, I got to figure out that road on my own and make it look the way I wanted to. So being a first generation student and coming from a big family led me to learn education is my why. I want to find a voice for myself and a voice for others. Moving on to the next slide. Okay, so now you know my why. We are going to go through the how. And here you're going to see a lot of steps from closer to your age to now the age I am right now of how I got to where I am. What's important to remember is that I'm still early in my journey and I'm trying to figure it out just like you are right now. I don't know everything, but I want to continue to keep growing. So that's why I'm committing to making this journey an open one and that I'm going to continue to grow from this point forward. Moving on to the next slide. All right, so I know a lot of you are in middle school and high school, so I'm not sure if they have these classes available, but at the time, I took a class called AVID, and it's Advancement via Individual Determination. In that class, I learned how to take notes that helped me organize my thoughts because I found that I had a lot of thoughts that I didn't find easy to organize, so I could write my questions on the left side and then take my notes on the right and then summarize it in the bottom. And it made it so much easier for me to understand like what my teacher was talking about. And then finally, I realized that I had one of my best teachers I had ever met in that class. He was not only one of my best friends, but he really motivated me and saw potential in me and made me want to continue in the realm of education. Moving on to the next slide. All right, so not only in high school did I meet an awesome teacher, but my first job was working in home daycare. And I was pretty young when I started working. I was around 14, and I worked with really small kids. They were like 7 months to 2 years old, so they were very young. And I worked building relationships with families. And what I really enjoyed about those two jobs was building those relationships with the family, but also I realized that I enjoyed working with kids. Just not maybe kids that were below the age of 2, maybe a little bit older, but at least I knew what I liked. Moving on to the next slide. Okay, so here's a picture of me in high school. And there you can see my mom and my dad, and that's when I'm graduating. And then there's a picture right there with my teacher. I was in chorus. I really enjoyed taking chorus. Then again, I knew I wanted to find my voice, but I took it in a more literal sense, trying to sing all the time. And it helped, but it wasn't quite the voice I was looking for in education. And then here, when I graduated, I was signed up for my first school that I was going to go to, university, and I had decided I was going to go to Longwood University. You can go to the next slide. Okay, and here's a picture of Longwood. It's a beautiful campus. It's in a place called Farmville, which I didn't think was a real place until I moved there. It's a really small town. But soon after being there for only 1 year, I realized this was not the right school for me. And I kind of got stuck because I thought in my head, wow, I made a mistake. But then I realized, no, it's okay. I just chose the wrong place. I'm going to keep looking for other places that might feel better. Even though the school looked really pretty, I didn't feel like the people there or the academics aligned with what I wanted. So I chose to transfer schools. And then I chose to transfer schools to a school that my friend was going to, that I heard a lot about and I really enjoyed. We can move to the next slide. And that school was Virginia Commonwealth University, or VCU. You might have heard of them for their basketball. They have a lot of good players in basketball, and they're very well known for that. But it's also located in Richmond, Virginia, which is a little city, and it's one of the best places I'd ever been. I learned so much about myself on my journey at VCU, and I did major in psychology when I was there. However, I was trying to still figure out what I wanted to do, what was I doing. I can go to the next slide. So, when I went to college, something that really helped me, and I realized this was kind of the same with when I was working at a daycare, working with other people always seemed to pop up. I realized I like to work with other people. I like to work with kids. These were two things that I was good at. So then I decided to join a mentoring program at my college where I got to talk to kids that are around your age in middle school and high school, and we got to figure out what college do they want to go to? Why do they want to go there? Do they like sports? Did they want to join a specific major, and a major being that's specifically what they want to study at school? And I got to talk to them and have these conversations, and I realized that the conversations with these kids were one of the best experiences of my everyday basis, of my everyday life. So I decided maybe maybe I should be in a position where I talk to kids more often. And I'm starting to lean towards education at this point. Here I'm graduating from college with my sister. So moving on to the next slide. And that's when I found Teach for America, which I'm part of right now. And in Teach for America, I realized that the values that I had been seeking out, working with people, finding a voice, building a community, were all in this program. So I felt like I'd found my perfect fit. Teach for America is, in case you're not sure what it is, it's a program where they send teachers to different states all across the US, and you teach in different communities and work with those communities to help them with their specific school, help them in every way possible, and make sure that you're using your voice to make a difference for these students. So in Teach for America, I found that I could give a voice to the students that didn't really have a voice in education, and it felt super amazing to find a program like this. Not only that, but the extra perk of being in Teach for America was I ended up here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which before I lived here, I had never ever realized was a place, to be honest, because it seems so far away from where I lived. And I think it just opened my eyes to more things. Next slide. So, my key takeaways for this conversation, and what I really want you to remember, is that I said that I had a what, a how, and a why. And I think that it's important that you realize that you have a what, a how, and a why too. Not only you are whoever you are, that's your what, but you have a how. How are you going to get to what you want to do? And then at the end of the day, the most important thing is what's your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? Even right now, in class, in any activity you do, what's the purpose behind it? I feel like that is really important to think about every time we make a decision. And then finally, the next thing, and I'm sure you've heard this one, doing the work. It's important to do everything that you need to do to reach your goal, which means maybe doing that extra assignment, or maybe joining a program that you're a little scared of doing to make sure that you get more experience. These things will help you reach your goals at the end. And then finally, the last thing, and I've kind of incorporated it throughout this presentation, is self-reflection. As you do any activity or choose to move on to your next goal or decide what college you want to go to, take a second to think, why am I doing this? For me, for example, when I decided to transfer from college, I realized I didn't like that school, but that was okay. And I chose to move on to the next choice. All right, next slide. So I'll leave you with two quotes today. The first quote is by Malala, which is really awesome because we were talking about her in class this week for Women's Month. And she said, one child, one teacher, one book, one pen can change the world. And she did that. She took a chance in her education, and she made one of the biggest differences that we know of today. And then the second one is specifically for all of us. It's by Zig Ziglar. You must make the choice to take the chance if you want anything to change. So specifically us, in our own choices, we need to choose ourselves. And with the choice of choosing ourselves, we can see change in the rest of the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Devora. That was fantastic. All right, at this time, we are going to move into our Q&A portion of the event. I will start us off by asking a couple questions that our participants asked before the presentation today. So first one, why do you think current students should consider becoming a teacher as a possible career path?
I think that teaching is an amazing job where not only do you get to build relationships with students like yourself, but you get to learn about yourself and how you can grow as a person by choosing to work with other people and work in a community where communication is key. And I think that as a teacher, you think that we know everything, but the reality is you teach us so much every day. And I feel like you get a lot more as a teacher than you give.
Wonderful, thank you. And one more question. What's the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Oh, the best piece of advice, and I still remember this, was choosing myself and investing in myself. And I think you probably hear this from a lot of people. Focus on you, work on yourself. But it's true. Once you really choose to work on yourself, whatever your goal is, um, you see that you grow bountiful and you're so much happier.
I love that. Absolutely. Take care of yourself. Thank you so much. Now, if anyone would like to unmute and ask a question, or if you'd rather use the chat box, you can type your question in there, and I will address those questions as well. Looks like we got a question in Mrs. Townsend's class. If you want to unmute.
Give us just 1 second, please.
No worries.
How many years have you been? Hello, my name is Michael. How many years have you been teaching?
Yeah, I've been teaching for 2 years and moving on into my third so far.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I said hi.
Hi.
I don't know if she heard you.
Hi.
I don't think she heard you. Say it again, guys.
Hi.
She's smiling. Thank you.
Could you repeat that question? I didn't hear it quite.
Any other questions from my other two classes on the call with us? Or if you don't want to unmute and ask your question, you can always type it into the chat, and I will ask Miss Devora for you. Miss Townsend, go ahead.
Wrong button. I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Cindy, and have you taught any other grades besides kindergarten?
I love that question. I have not taught any other grades because when I first started teaching, I was thinking of teaching like third grade. However, I worked with kindergarten. I realized it was one of my most favorite grades, so I chose to stick with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have another question while our students maybe think a little bit more. You talked about your family and your teachers being a really big influence, but who is the biggest influence for you growing up?
I really like that question as well. I think that my biggest influence probably is my father. He really admired education, but he never himself got a degree in college or had an education beyond high school, and he is very, very intelligent, and he definitely admired education. And because of that, I realized, why not take advantage of something that is so beautiful and can expand your brain so much?
Great. Your dad was definitely onto something there about education, for sure. Miss Townsend's class, go ahead.
How would you say you could do better, succeed more, go beyond expectations?
Well, I really like that question. And I feel like I asked myself that question when I was your age too. I think that your expectation of succeeding and doing better depends on where you are right now. So I would ask myself where I am right now, what are my goals and what do I want to do? And once I set up a plan to get there, maybe not stop there. Set up my next goal and make sure I always have a goal to work towards. So for you, whatever that is, I hope you can set those goals and reach those expectations.
Thank you. My name is Mal, and what other states have you taught in?
So I hadn't taught in any state other than New Mexico because, like I was saying before, I joined Teach for America right outside of college. So I've just been teaching in New Mexico, which gives me, I guess, the benefit of not having a biased opinion from Virginia and being able to just think of New Mexico as the place I'm teaching. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kyle. What makes you wake up in the morning? What makes you want to wake up in the morning?
Hi, Kyle. Thanks for that question. It depends on the day. Sometimes no one wants to wake up, but the main thing that keeps me going is my class, the kids here that wake up every day and are excited to see what I have to do. So maybe even if I'm not feeling well, maybe having a bad day, I see their smiles and it makes my day better. So that's definitely a main motivator.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Miss Magdalena's class, go ahead.
So, how do you deal with kids that like don't listen or like leave the classroom?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. I think that a lot of teachers have their own ways of dealing with situations like this. But I think the main thing that needs to be said is that the relationship you have with these students is so important. So if I have a good relationship with this kid that maybe wants to walk out of the class and yell at me, then maybe even in that moment when we can't have a conversation, he realizes that we are going to have that conversation later. And we can talk about what made him do that, how does he feel, and what plans can we set him up for so he can maybe not do those things again and he can invest a little bit more in his education. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Magdalena's class. So we have a question here in the chat for you, Miss Devora. Can you talk a little bit more about Teach for America, as it's a unique opportunity for future educators?
Yeah, Teach It for America is like a really great program that you can join directly out of college, or you can join later on in your career as well. And it gives you the opportunity to work in different locations all over the United States and help with their education, whatever that is there. So if they need teachers to work as math teachers at a high school, they will send you there. And the point is to create an equal education for all students, considering their needs and the community they're in, and making sure you can be a teacher that leads with DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's how we think of things. That's our main framework for teaching.
So it sounds like a really, really great program, Teach for America. Are there any last questions that our students or community members have for Miss Devora? All right, we got one more from Miss Townsend's class. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Alexander. How many schools did you go to?
Hi, Alexander. Thank you for this question. So far, I have worked at one school, and that's mostly because I really enjoy working at the school I work at right now. The school I work at is called Albuquerque Collegiate Charter School, and it's located in the South Valley and has a really great program for our elementary students in terms of education and DEI, like we talked about earlier, building those relationships.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Alrighty. Well, if there are no more questions, thank you so much, Ms. Devora. Thank you, students, educators, and teachers. Oh, I think I missed one. Erin, did you have a question that you wanted to ask Ms. Devora before we signed off?
Pardon me, Miss Magalona, how many students are with you today?
I have 2, 4. I have 6.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed today's program. Before we log off, just a couple of announcements. Following the presentation, you will be asked to complete a post-mindset survey. By completing the survey, you will be entered into a drawing for a chance to win a Dion's gift card. Teachers, please make sure that you share the link to the survey with your students, and we will be deciding the winner on Monday. Thank you so much again, Devora, for joining us, and to everyone on the call. We will see you at our next virtual career speaker series on April 13th. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.